Fabinho. Bernardo Silva.
Well, I know one thing for sure. I'm hoping so. I think it is time that we finally got that win at Anfield. Welcome along to We're Not Really Here. Thank you so much for joining us. A very happy Sunday to you all. Of course, this is one of those fixtures that we all immediately look to when the fixtures are announced at the start of the season. Away to Liverpool. Now, a win this afternoon would really put us in the driving seat to regain that title and win it back off Liverpool. But a loss would very much put Liverpool right back on our heels. So all to play for this afternoon. And for a game of this magnitude, of course, we have brought along only the best in the form of Nedum Onuoha and Richard Dunne. They are here to get us into this tantalising fixture. Good afternoon, gents. Thanks for joining us. Nedum, I'm going to begin with you. Is this City's best chance to come away with 3 points at Anfield? Of course, we've just seen there since 2003.
Oh, my goodness gracious me. That's a bad record, isn't it? You'd say so. Liverpool aren't in the best of form. They've got a few injuries, some significant injuries for the whole season and so on. So, with City being in this run of form, yes, you do fancy them, but even though the fans out there, it's still Anfield, and that hoodoo still exists. But I hope today there's nobody on the field that's aware of that, and they can just go out there and get the 3 points.
And play that game. One man who was there when we did last win at Anfield was, of course, the man to my right, Richard Dunne. We're going to get into that a little bit later, but how key is this fixture in the title race and for who's going to be crowned champions come the end of the season?
I struggle to see that Liverpool are still a challenger in the title race. I think their form over recent weeks has really gone against them, and obviously the gap has become almost impossible to close. And without a victory today for them, I think it's finished. Mm-hmm. I struggle to believe they can drag it back as it is now. But today, for them, it's a must-win game, and I think that forces all the pressure onto their side today.
Would you say off that as well, question for you, is more than the pressure on Liverpool today in this fixture, do you think?
They must win, Liverpool. There's no second chances for them after today. If they don't win the game today, I don't think they can claw the gap back. And for Man City, it's always been a case of going there and the game is the biggest game of the season because of the two teams that's challenging it. But at the moment, it's City seem to be out on their own in terms of form and consistency. And if they carry on what they've been doing in recent weeks, I don't see that Liverpool have almost that creativity to open them up. They seem to have lost that little bit of bite in midfield, and that's what pushes them forward, and it's given other teams the opportunity to build up attacks, and that's what City do perfectly.
It's interesting because, I'm a little bit more excited and I am nervous for this fixture, but you say we've got to approach this with trepidation. I mean, we do. But
no, that's no. Nobody has to. No one has to feel how I feel right now. But a good point that Richard was making there. Like, this is a massive game for Liverpool. And one thing about this is obviously a huge game based on the last 2-3 years.
Yes.
But the fact is Liverpool are in fourth. So if Liverpool are only going to concern themselves with what City are doing in first, they're disregarding the teams who are in second and third, who've earned the right to be there. So for them, it's a step to try and get back up there, but they still have two other teams to vault before they can even be part of that back and forth, first v second debate.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Yeah, of course.
So it's huge for them, and it is a must win for them. But even if they do win, they're still not favoured to do so. So that's when the necessity is there, as opposed to just the desire itself.
Absolutely, and not forgetting, of course, that game in hand that Manchester City have as well. Well, let's see what team Pep has chosen to put out at Anfield for our game against Liverpool this afternoon. It is looking like this. In goal, we have Ederson. Our back four is made up of Cancelo, Diaz, Stones and Zinchenko. A middle three, we think, of Rodri, Gundogan and Bernardo. And a front three yet to be decided who's going down the middle. Mahrez, Foden and Sterling. And as we look to our bench, we have Zach Steffen on there. Jesus, Laporte, Torres, Mendy, Fernandinho, Eric Garcia, Tommy Doyle and Bernabe. Nedum, what are your first thoughts when you see that team? And what do you think we're going to be going for this afternoon?
I think it's the first time in a while where we've not seen three defenders in that back four who would naturally form the back three that starts most of their attacks. So maybe there's going to be a slight tweak in strategy in terms of, say, maybe going with two centre-backs and two sixes. Because for recent weeks it's been 1-6, whether it's been Rodrigo or Fernandinho.
Yeah.
So that is going to be interesting. But then everything else around it, seeing them go with essentially a false nine doesn't surprise me. I think if you win the midfield battle at Anfield against Liverpool, I think you do very, very well. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a positive lineup. I think he could have been negative, and a few City fans may have been worrying about, is Pep going to do something completely out of left field and so on, because he has done that before. Yeah. But this it has a sense of familiarity, and that familiarity is a positive one, because last time I saw something like this was against Chelsea, and that turned out to be very good there.
It really did indeed. And I guess that ties into what you were saying, Richard, about the game could possibly be won in midfield. And with a selection like this, it definitely thinks that, it puts us in a strong position to win that battle.
Yeah, when you look at the team and then break it down into the individuals, the ability of each individual in the team is crazy. The ability to keep the ball has been outstanding in recent weeks, and I think if you can keep the ball away from Liverpool, you've obviously got a much better chance. And certainly they've got the numbers in midfield to go and dominate the game in that area. And as we know, they've certainly got the threat. Obviously, the biggest thing for Liverpool is the two wide men, whereas in previous weeks we've had a fullback maybe coming into the midfield role. I don't think it'd be so much the case today, with certainly if Mane's playing and certainly with Salah there.
Off that, it's interesting, because you'd think, really, for me, I'd be going for, I kind of always want to see Kyle, because I always fancy him against the best wingers. And similarly, Laporte maybe feels a bit more solid defensively. What then is the thinking? Because, as I say, my go-to would be get your two strongest defenders to face arguably two of the best wingers in the league. But this then says, are we going to try and control that possession more so we don't have to worry about that as much, Nedum?
I think having possession is obviously a big strength, and it's a big strength of Pep Guardiola. I think there have been articles recently which show that, say, some of his defensive record comes from the fact they can control games for longer periods than other sides do, because ultimately the other team can't score if you have possession. And I think this is the team's like a step in the right direction, because it shows that Pep is being front foot. So what you're saying in terms of Kyle Walker being in there and defending well and so on, like that, for me, that is true. Mm-hmm. But he's gone for something which is more about what City are doing, as opposed to being in a situation whereby they're overly worrying about what Liverpool are going to try and do to them. Yeah. And it's that type of confidence from a manager and from players where you step out onto the field and it's about you on that particular day. And that goes a long, long way, especially when, as I say, you have so many players on the field with an attacking mindset. You're not asking them to go out there and just defend for 90 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
You're asking them to try and control the game, which I think they're more than capable of doing all the way through the team.
Probably might be a bit trickier at Anfield, but we've got it in us, and we've got here some highlights from, of course, the game earlier on in the season. I think it was back at it was at the Etihad, of course. I think it ended up being a draw, that game. I mean, this will probably be lingering in their minds, Richard. And I felt that was a game. I think I was fortunate enough to be here for this, that we could have won. So do you think that'll be definitely something that the players will be thinking about going into this game?
Yeah, and I think what Liverpool do and have done to Man City in recent times is that instead of having a full intense 90 minutes, they've had impact moments in games where they've scored 3 and 4 goals at times, and they've just blown Man City away. So I think for Man City to have the side that's being chosen today is about dominating possession and making sure that Liverpool don't get up into a rhythm where they can take their chances over a short period. And looking at City, they can win every game that they play at the moment. Yeah. When they're playing, they just look like nobody can get the ball off them, nobody can attack them, nobody can get in behind them. They just look solid. And obviously Liverpool will be massively up for this game, knowing it's their final chance and stuff like that. But if you then put one past them, their heads will drop, because they feel and they can sense what's happened to them in recent weeks. They've struggled to break teams down. I mean, you look at this City defence, 4 goals conceded in 20 games. If you're not scoring goals, that's the last team you want to play against. And that's the way Liverpool are at the moment.
And off that then, Nedum, what do you think we're going to see from the Liverpool team? Is it going to be that little bit of a, kind of wounded dog, and we get that first one? Or could it work in the other sense, in that they come out and try and blitz us and we maybe have to withstand the storm early doors?
I think to give credit to Liverpool, regardless of this run that they're on now, I think they've proven over the last couple of years that they are essentially worthy champions. They've won the Champions League, they've won the Premier League, so they know what it takes to win games and to win lots of games to actually achieve something. Mm-hmm. So big games have been something which they've had to deal with before. And even this dip in form, even though it's affected them, they're still in technically with a chance right now. So I'd expect them to play to their strengths, which is to set a very high and strong tempo from the get-go. Mm-hmm. Whether or not that proves to be the case because of the way City playing, I'm not sure. But I don't think Liverpool are going to feel their way into this game, and they're going to try and make a statement from early doors, because then the game can be different. Mm-hmm. I think if you take a back foot against Man City, chances are you will have no rhythm by the time it's the 20th, 30th minute, and you might be 1 or 2 goals down.
Yes.
So I'm expecting them to go out all guns blazing, big tackles to be flying in, the type of performance which you expect from Liverpool if Anfield was full and the crowd was there to make a big difference. And I think they're going to try and instill that into the players for today's game, with people like Jordan Henderson's and James Milner's and stuff, who, even though they're not from the city, they represent a particular type of thing about the city and what that team stands for. So I expect to see lots of that today.
Okay, I mean, just wow, Nedum, thank you so much for that. We're going to bring you our Liverpool team in just a second, but just going off what you've said there, talked about no fans in the stadium, and I think it's a great point from Nedum that Liverpool might try and make us feel that through their game, but that's got to work in our favour, hasn't it? I think would we have seen the results? Do you think we've seen this year if we had seen a full Anfield? Do you think, Richard?
Possibly not. I mean, I think it's the most away games in the history of English football in the top flight or something this year throughout the whole league. So there's certainly something different. And that roar at Anfield does exist. It's something which is certainly, I'm sure it's inspiring for a Liverpool player, but it's intimidating for an opposition player, and it must make a difference. Whether City can take advantage, I mean, Liverpool are still a good side. They're just in a bad moment, and my confidence comes from the fact of how well City are playing rather than adding to do with Liverpool. So you take away the crowd, you take away Liverpool's current form, and at the moment Man City are a side that are just really, really consistent and don't make errors. And when you come into the big games, if you don't make errors and you've got opportunities and players like City have who can create opportunities to score, I think they're going in as favourites, and I think the Anfield roar will certainly help Man City today.
Absolutely.
Can I just say something off the back of that?
Go on, yeah, we'll go.
So
of course.
the roar that you speak of is so significant because having been a player like yourself where you can play in training games, you can play games in stadiums. Have you ever been on the training field and somebody won a corner and you hear like 30,000 people celebrating and like you defending like, oh God, we must be under pressure because it's a corner? Well, no, but then when you go to this is what we're missing, also what's missing in terms of fans, because you get so many highs from things which aren't ultimately even that high. You know what I mean? Like the thought you go into the second half and someone says, oh, the ball's going to get sucked into the cop end. Someone has a chance, there's a free kick, there's more noise, there's a corner for them. You're thinking, oh, it must be really under pressure. But it's just a corner. It's just a normal part of the game. Yeah. But it just feels that little bit different. So when you take that away from a side like Liverpool, we've obviously had incredible European nights and things like that. Before you realise, I think this is probably why there's so many away wins. It's a game of football, 11 v 11. Yeah. And you lose that emotional sort of like, oh God, I guess we must be under pressure here because all these people are telling me so.
Yeah. Do you know, you said when we were talking about, you said anywhere but Anfield though, and do you still feel that way even today?
I do feel that way just because for as much as there are players in the City team who obviously don't care, it's not a thing because they win 20, 30 games a season anyway. The fact is it's more so for the Liverpool side because they very rarely do they step out on that field against City and feel like they're underdogs because more often than not they're getting positive results against them. And obviously that is at Anfield and the fan base is a thing. But, you know, if I was playing somewhere and I'd never remember, it's in fairness, let me tell you the equivalent for me personally in my career. I think I went to Stoke maybe 10 to 15 times and I think I lost every single time. So I know as soon as I start travelling down the M6, it's like there's a feeling there. So when someone sees my face on there in the field, they'll be like, we'll be all right today. We'll be all right today. So, yeah, there's something, for as much as it doesn't weigh down the City players, I think it can uplift the Liverpool players. Yeah. You know, and that there is something which will probably add to the performance today.
Final word on this then. With them obviously losses to Burnley and then to Brighton, could this maybe spell the end of this fortress that Anfield once was? Or is it hard to kind of make that judgment given it's still not quite normal circumstances?
Yeah, I don't think it's the end. I mean, it's this current run that they've been on when they went 60-odd games or something without losing. That's not the first time that's happened at Anfield. You know, I mean, not 60-odd games or whatever, but previously I'm sure they would have went 30 or 40 games. Anfield has been a fortress forever, basically. It's been a really difficult place to go, and regardless of what happens today, it will come back strong and it'll still be a difficult place to go to next season. But for City, when they're arriving at the stadium today, we've seen the pictures before. There's no fans there shouting abuse and
the flares
and all that stuff. Yeah. So instantly they'll know it's different and it feels different. And if you can just change that little impact in your mind that, oh, it's not the same Anfield that we were at last year or the year before. There is an opportunity. I think everything's different about it. And like Nedum saying, it's just a corner sometimes. Whereas Liverpool thrive off intensity, and when they run 60 yards to make a tackle, there's a huge roar that comes with it. But now, it's just a tackle. It's just one guy putting in a bit of hard work. And the way that City have set up, to me, it sits perfectly for a City win.
It does, which is why I'm trying not to say anything about it. But yeah, it does.
We're all trying to keep our cool here in the studio.
I'm trying to convince Nedum.
It's not going to happen.
Let's see if one man that might be able to help you along, who's been in great form at the moment and been really instrumental, I feel, to our recent success, Ilkay Gundogan. Well, he was speaking to us before the game. This is what he had to say at Anfield earlier on.
Look, Manchester City are in absolutely fantastic form right now. What does that give you going into this game?
A lot of confidence, an amazing feeling, stability, and that's why we came here, to show this all.
You personally playing particularly well. You're in the goals as well. How much is that down to you playing slightly further forward?
Yeah, I think it gives me a lot of support that I play further up the pitch. Obviously, when I play more an offensive role, I try to be more in the dangerous spots, try to be closer to the opponent's box, and try to occupy the right spaces and the right time. And actually, it's working out quite well. But obviously, it's still a lot of games to play, and I want to show that also in the next few games.
How much do you view this game as an opportunity to increase the distance between yourself and the current champions, to take it to 10 points?
I think that's the right word. That's how we should see it. It's an amazing opportunity for us, not just to achieve 3 points, to make maybe the gap even bigger. I think also to show a great performance, to show that we can come here into this great stadium, play against this great team, and show what we've shown the last few weeks. And that's the target for the day.
Thanks for your time.
Welcome.
That was Ilkay Gundogan there, speaking ahead of our fixture at Anfield against Liverpool. And Richard, the minute he came and started talking, he said that's kind of what you want to see, is somebody who is calm, collected, and the occasion isn't getting to him whatsoever, it seems.
Yeah, and it's like he spoke about, the confidence. And all the players in the team and in the squad, they have that confidence that they're used to winning games, and they know when they walk out on the pitch, you don't have anything to worry about in terms of how they're going to play, because they've perfected it almost over the recent years or whatever, and every time they walk onto the pitch, they're looking at each other and going, well, he's the best centre back in the world, he's the best left back in the world, he's the best midfielder in the world. So the confidence must be really sky high, and it's results change in football, and it's based on confidence, because if City lose today, they'll still be the best team, and they might lose then 2 in a row or something like that, and people go, well, they're not. It's just confidence dips and rises, and when it's as high as it is now at City, it's very difficult, and the players will want to grab that and sort of live off it for a long time.
Fingers crossed, we're going to be running with that indeed. Nedum, I know we were speaking a bit as well before the show, because you did a bit of a focus on Gundogan. I mean, everyone's seen it, but he just seems to have taken his game to another level this season. I think
he's been truly special. It's been truly special. But to piggyback on something that Richard said, then again, the confidence as a player. I always went out on the field. If you knew what your job was, and you knew that everybody around you was going to do theirs as well, what is there ultimately for you to worry about? And then you add to City's to that mentality, a City side full of incredible talent, which will be sprinkled upon rock solid structure.
Yeah.
Like, it's a dream. It's like a dream come true to know that I'm going to be here and I can close my eyes, but no, I'm going to pass the ball here, and somebody's going to be there because that's where they're supposed to be. Like that.
You're getting convinced, Nedum.
We're drawing him over bit
No,
by
I'm talking well, maybe. But yeah, that stuff is massive, and that's testament to the management, that's testament to the coaches, and testament to the players buying into it. And I think that's one thing we can say over the last 12, 13 games, or however long it's been. The buy-in has been huge, because they're getting it right week in, week out. They're not just relying on somebody to maybe score a freak goal from 30 yards out. They're all doing their jobs, they're all controlling games and defending well as a unit as well. So you look at someone like Gundogan, and he's obviously a very good technical player, but he's a massive part of the system as well. Yeah. And even as we were saying before, it's like defender porn, this basically, excuse my French, but there was a point where Laporte plays a long ball through for Sterling after Gundogan came short to receive the pass, but instead of just throwing his hands up and saying, why don't you play me the ball, he understands that the 2 options. And the other option was taken, so then he turned and ran to win the second ball.
Without even thinking.
It's automatic. Yeah. And I think once you become automatic on the field, that's when you know you're in top 4.
Well, off that then, and speaking of managers, how much of that is Gundogan's ability, brain, and experience in the game, and how much of it comes from Pep?
I would say there's a good mix of the two, but with Pep, the way that City plays is a reflection of his own personality and identity and how he wants to see the game being played. And I think if you're not doing that role, it weakens the team. But the team appears to be very strong right now, so everybody must know their jobs. And it's obviously it's important to, just as a player, understand that you have to win second balls and stuff anyway. But it was the fact that the ball was played and it was automatic. He didn't even guess for a second where it was going to be played to, because he knew where it was going to. Because in that instance, Sterling was doing his job, standing on the sideline, threatening him behind. So for every move, there's another move that exists that's linked to it elsewhere.
Yes.
And when players can see that, buy into that, and they do it automatically, like they're the worst to play against. You can beat an individual, but a team United is always going to be difficult, especially when it has the talent level of Man City.
There's a great line as well from Pep this week where he says, now this team, they're not looking to the man next to them to go, well, you might be able to win the game for us. It's actually going, no, I'm going to do my bit, and we're all going to win the game for each other. I don't know if you wanted to add something to that.
Yeah, it's just
Richard.
because there was an interview with John Stones this week, and he said that he could play blindfolded for Man City because Pep has simplified the game so well for him that he knows exactly what he's doing. So he'll be sitting in the dressing room now going, every time I get the ball, I know that I've got 3 options. I know where to pass it, and I know what to do. And it's like Nedum says, if you walk out on the pitch and you've been told that's your role, that's your job, that's all you have to do today, you don't worry. And every time I get it, all I have to do is pass it 5 yards to this guy, and this guy can then do his thing, which might be a 10-yard pass or whatever, and everyone's role is simplified, and it makes it so enjoyable. And it's like, I've coached kids over the time, and if you can simplify the role for anybody, a professional footballer or a child, they just play without fear and without worry, and as long as your ideas are right,
That's the big one. That's the big one.
Yeah, you're on the right track. That makes all the difference. But I mean, it's kind of ironic because you say he simplified the game and made it so easy, but and it kind of looks so simple to watch. But I mean, you'll both know better than anyone. Actually, what they're doing though, it has got to be extremely difficult and must be on another level, I think. Or is it not?
No. Like I'm not going to talk it down. I'm not going to talk it down. No. But I'll speak up for buy-in. When you get everybody buying in, any manager's plan can work.
Yeah.
But Pep has brought in a slightly different plan to what we're used to seeing, whether it's the case of the fullbacks coming into certain places. But at each position on the field, they'll have certain expectations which have to be met, and then anything else on top of that is an extra. The front three have to give a threat in behind to pin back a back four. The back three have to have the personality and the technique to want to have the ball all the time, because that's where most of the play happens for Man City before it goes forward. The 6 has to come and show for the ball all the time and be an option. And that's when I think a lot of players will stumble, because not every player wants to have the ball under pressure. Not every player wants to receive the ball under pressure. Not everybody wants to go and stand out on the left wing and not touch the ball for 5 minutes. But the players, they all buy into it. And I think it's easier to buy into once you see how much you can affect the opposition and the success you can have from it. And the 5 minutes patience and holding your position will create space for a Gundogan, who will get the ball and play the ball out to Foden, who will then be overlapped by Zinchenko, who will then cut it back for Gundogan to stand on the edge of the box. There's a structure to it. But one thing, as I say, I saw throughout my career is like some people don't want to do something if it doesn't feel like it benefits them directly. But this is a team game, and it's no surprise that the team that's playing in the most cohesive manner at this moment is top of the Premier League.
I guess final thing of that is not all those things, but also a complete trust in the system and the people around you as well. Isn't it?
It's every manager I've seen so far has had an idea. Some of them are good at trying to make sure the players understand that idea. Some aren't. But the fact is, if you have an idea and you want to be a successful manager and you want to give it a chance, everybody has to buy into it. Everyone has to understand why they're doing it. And everybody has to do it, because a 10+1 and the whole system fails.
And then off that, on the other side of it, you've got to say there's another coach that's probably the best at that in the league is Jurgen Klopp. And I know they're in a bad rut, but this Liverpool team very much bought into his philosophy. So there's kind of a similarity there, would you say, Richard?
I suppose you look at Man City and it's more of a possession-based thing, whereas Liverpool can look a bit hectic at time, but it's controlled chaos almost, and they can attack you from either side, and they just seem to be dangerous every time they come forward. And in terms of getting your style right and your beliefs across to people and players, it's helpful when you're Pep Guardiola or you're Jurgen Klopp. People, you have to come from a background of success, and these two have got it. They've both won trophies wherever they've gone. They've both been successful, and you can see almost the character within Jurgen Klopp is emulated in his team.
Yes,
it's exciting and it's just adrenaline fueled. Everything about it is is
110
high
miles
tempo,
per hour, isn't it? Yeah.
And with Pep, you see the same. It's relaxed, it's calm, it's measured, it's well thought out, and it's calculated. And the two sides, why they are the top two sides, is the players have bought into what the manager is saying, and what they're saying is right, and what they're saying is positive football. We've seen Mourinho was really successful for a long time, but he's not evolved his ideas. His ideas are to defend first and foremost and then see what comes. But to win games and to win leagues, you have to be positive. You have to go out and try and open up oppositions and score goals. And these two managers have set that two teams up as, over the last 2 or 3 years, as the two best sides around in Europe possibly, and excited people along the way while they're doing it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Richard. Well, we can have a little look now and focus in on Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp. Check this out.
Pep, before we talk about the game itself, you said you were going to seek out Jurgen Klopp to ask him to explain his comments in the press conference. Have you seen him yet?
No.
Do you still intend to ask him?
No. After the game, maybe, yeah. Now, concern is the game.
Let's turn to the game. 2003 was the last time you won here. You're in fantastic form right now. Liverpool's not on their best run. Have you never had a better chance of winning here?
Never. In my 5th season here, never came here to thinking to break a record for 2013. So every time I came here, we came here is to try what we can do to win the games. Sometimes we draw, sometimes we lose, and we could not win because for one reason: is a fantastic club and a good team with a good manager, good backroom staff. So I guess so. That's why. But the reason why we are here is try to win this game, 3 points, that's all.
Given the form you're in, though, do you feel you have a better chance than ever?
Listen, when you analyze the results is one point. When you analyze the performance is another one. And the managers, I never see the results when I analyze an opponent. I see what they do, how they are, and if he plays this player or the other one. This is the way. We'll be easy our job. So we'll be sitting, we'll see a table. Okay, they are below, not necessary to work. We're going to beat them because we are better in position in the table. So every club and we cannot deny. So it's the champion in charge, and the team is always there.
What do you think you've got to do today to get all 3 points?
Not differently what we have done in terms of in playing. So it's different styles. And we're going to see who imposes the one.
What is it, do you think, that you've been doing of late? What's behind your current form, behind your current success?
Who?
City. What is behind the current form? What is it you've been doing that's bringing these results?
No, we try to thinking in the next game. So when we were far away, we had 12 or 13 in the position at the table, we spoke and said, forget about it, Europa League, forget about it, qualification for the Champions League, and try to win the next game. And we traveled to Southampton where we fought a lot, and we were so difficult, we won, and after next one, and next one, and next one. Is the only thing. When you want to anticipate it's going to happen the next 4, 5, 6 games, if we win this game and we lose this game, it's no sense. So it's focus on we have to do our job and try to win the games.
Thank you, Pep.
Well, fingers crossed we're going to be talking about Manchester City win later on, game by game. Always seems to be the motive with Pep Guardiola, of course, taking on Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool team. And we can bring you the side that we are going to be facing now. It looks like this. Alisson is back in net for Liverpool. At the back, it's Trent Alexander-Arnold. Fabinho partners Jordan Henderson with Robertson at left back. Wijnaldum, Jones and Thiago in the middle. And that front three of Mane, Salah and Firmino. Their bench looks like this. Adrian Milner, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Kabak, Tsimikas, Shaqiri, Origi, Phillips and Nico Williams. We were speaking at the start of the game, the midfield's going to be key. Richard Weed spoke before the show and said they'd probably be hoping to get Henderson back into that midfield. He's not. He's partnering Fabinho. He's done well there, but they are going to miss him, aren't they?
I think the biggest problem for Liverpool is they've knocked off Van Dijk. Then they've sort of compounded that problem by taking their best, most intensive midfielder and putting him back. So now they're weaker at centre-half, they're weaker in midfield. But for them, I think playing Jones today is an important thing because he's got that local spirit, that local fight in him, and he's someone who has got the intensity. For all the good stuff that Thiago does, I don't know if he plays at the same level, same tempo as the rest of the players, and can sometimes slow it down. But Yeah, I mean, like Pep's just been saying there, it's still Liverpool. They might be fourth in the league, but if you take them down as individuals, they're a very, very strong side, and they can still cause problems. And they're trying to make the most of what being dealt with them this year, having the problems at defensive areas.
You've got to say, though, as well, actually, the problems in the defensive areas, but that's not necessarily been Liverpool's biggest problem in this bad run of form, Nedum.
No, it hasn't at all. I think up until they won a big game, I forget who it was against, maybe a couple of weeks ago, they maybe had 80-something shots and hadn't scored a goal in that time. And you can say, oh, that's a crisis, but then you look bigger picture and it's 80-something shots in the space of maybe 5-6 games or something, which ultimately is a lot. So they were still creating chances, but they just weren't taking them. And the defensive element encourages the opposition, but doesn't necessarily take away from their own strengths in terms of actually going out and scoring goals, because I think up until recently, in fact, they might still be the case, that they're top scorers in the league, are they not?
I think, yeah, they.
So, they're a dangerous side, and Pep hit the nail on the head. You look at an opposition based on what their strengths and weaknesses are, not necessarily what their last results and so on have been. Because if you're just going to go in based on, say, the fact they've lost 2 games at home or whatever, think of it bigger picture. You could think of it bigger picture and say, well, they're desperate for, at some point they have to break that, and there's going to be a strong performance.
Yeah.
But I think for Liverpool, they like the matchup against City, which is why it's been so competitive over the recent seasons. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be a good game for the neutral, and a very nerve-wracking game for people on the other side. Can I say as well? You see, when we were watching the clip of Klopp just then.
Yes.
Is it a German thing? Because he was standing there looking at the City half. Did you see that? Because that's happened to me in my career before when I played against the German side, and it's one of the weirdest things going. Like their coach is just standing there on the halfway line, just
watching the opposition,
just watching you. And I'm like,
I've seen him do that before.
There?
It must be, but I've seen Klopp do that before. I don't know if he's trying to get in the red.
He does it all the time. That's one of the things that he said he does. He watches and he wants to see how their reactions are to warming up, how their sort of confidence looks. Are they involved in the warm up? Are they messing around doing their own things and different things like that? And
it's business as usual.
Something he's always done.
Yeah,
you won't see anything from City. I doubt that.
A final question earlier. I've just thought of this when we were talking, because it seems to have been a bit of a theme in the league as a whole this season. Teams going through these little grey patches when it comes to scoring. I mean, only a month or so ago, City were in that rut. I think Leicester went through a moment with it. You can see it Chelsea with Werner and players like that struggling to score. What do you think? Is there a correlation, or am I just making something up? But I just feel that it seems to have hit each team at some point, and has it got something to do with the season as a whole, do you think?
I'll give a boring answer here, and I apologise for this. Please still invite me back. But I think everything in this instance over the last few months has been amplified because they're 3 games a week normally. So if somebody's having a bad 3 games, that's a space of 7 days, and it feels very, very intense.
Right.
That's another moment where they've not scored. That's another moment they've not scored. And obviously some players like Wnrh are struggling to score goals. But this is all that's going on right now in this moment. So everything is going to be hyper-analysed. But overall, this might just be a normal flow of a season. People will struggle. It's very rare that a team or an individual is consistent all the way through.
Yes.
But, if you're going to have a 4 or 5 game blip these days, that's in the space of 2 weeks, and you get battered for those 2 weeks, as opposed to something which could be a month or a 5 week thing in the past, yeah.
And in the grand scheme of things, actually, it's only a tiny little bit,
exactly,
isn't it? Yeah, great point. Well, let's look back then to our last game out, which of course was against Burnley in that 2-0 win. It was shaping up to maybe be a banana skin game, because you think Burnley away, it's always tough, but we handled it with absolute aplomb, and actually, again, City were mesmeric, Richard, in that 2-0 win.
Yeah, it was a joy to watch, and it's one of those games when you start watching it, almost from the first whistle, you go, oh, they've won this.
Yeah.
Because they were just so good. And they just gave Burnley literally no space to play. So every time Burnley got the ball, their head had to be down because the City were pressing so high and so quickly. And I think there was situations where City had like 5 men up front, and then they would clear the ball out to the left wing, and City had 5 men there as well. Yeah. It just seemed to be all over the pitch. It was incredible, and it could have been more goals, obviously. But in terms of performance and keeping up what we've seen over the last couple of months, it was brilliant, and it was sort of culmination of what's been happening. Just really good play, just confidence, comfortable in possession, just looked on a completely different level to Burnley. And like you said, we've seen Burnley cause teams trouble over the last while. So it was a really good professional performance.
Off that, how do you defend against a City when they play like that? Because one thing that I think really struck me, and I mentioned to you, Richard, and you said at the start of the show, the fluidity of these players now.
Yeah.
I think at one point you had Stones ended up, Warren was in a right wing position, Diaz stood on the centre spot like he owned that centre midfield. You know, they're all very happy in any part of the pitch with the ball or without it.
Yeah.
How do you defend against that, Nedum?
I think realistically, you have to accept the fact that they will have a lot of possession, and even though you mentioned Stone was on the right wing and Cancelo was in the centre spot, they would still been in the right positions, but the personnel are just different for those particular positions. So you give up the fact they're going to have lots of the ball, they're going to be moving it around well, they're going to be dangerous. But for City, I think the Achilles heel that team can have sometimes is that they're not clinical in front of goal.
Yes.
I think if we call it what it is and say missing a big chance is as big a mistake as it is making a mistake at the back,
Agreed.
because you cost a goal one side and you miss a goal the other, the value still remains the same.
Agreed.
So City, for the last 2 months or so, their mistakes have been so low. But if you're going to be an opposition side trying to stop them, you understand they're going to be having shots, but every shot they take has to be contested. You have to put bodies in the box. You have to be trying to get blocks in. You have to make sure that their best players don't have time and space to move around in dangerous areas. And all that stuff, at the end of the day, for as much as it's tactical, a lot of it's mentality.
Yeah.
And I think there's some where the toughest games will be maybe against the Sheffield United, where people are back in and contesting and trying to block everything, as opposed to what we saw, say, 2 months earlier when it was like a Chelsea and they tried to go toe-to-toe in terms of passing standpoint.
Yes.
You start, as I say, if you can contest every shot, every cross, every whatever, you have a chance. It might not be a great chance, but you have a chance. And then if you can put them under pressure at the other end, in terms of City, that is, then maybe you get an opportunity, and if you're clinical and you can take that, then you've got something to hold on to.
Thank you, Nedum. If you've just joined us, welcome along to We're Not Really Here. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon ahead of our fixture at Anfield against Liverpool. We have got around 23 minutes until kick-off, and here getting into the game and building up the excitement and the tension, Nedum Onuoha and Richard Dunne. We've been alluding to it quite a lot in the show. The last time we won at Anfield was back in 2003, and one man who was a part of that team was yourself, Richard Dunne. First of all, I don't know why we've not got you on the phone to Pep to give all the wisdom, because the question is, how did you go about winning at Anfield that day?
I think for us it wasn't a case of, well, we're going there and we beat them, maybe we might challenge them in the league and get up into Champions League positions. So you go into those games and it's like it's a pleasure almost, because you want to go and play in the big stadiums, you want to go and prove yourself against the big teams, and to go there, we didn't have a fear of losing because we were probably expected to lose. So it's more a case of, well, let's just go out and play well.
Yeah.
Let's just perform and do what we want. And even on the day, we still had Peter Schmeichel was in goal, and I remember him making 2 or 3 unbelievable saves. So we were still lucky in a way, but the
even
quality,
1-0 down as well.
I was just seeing that earlier. I was surprised that we went 1-0 down. I thought we would have been hanging on, but by all accounts, we got a goal in the last minute. So it was a great victory.
We were talking as well, were you playing more right back, we think, in this game then, Richard?
Yeah, I think David Semay and Sylvan were centre halves, but
why aren't you forward there, Dunne? You could be supporting that move.
I was tucked in like a central midfield after that one.
You were the blueprint, actually, yeah. It's one of those fixtures now, obviously, given its history, you go, it's massive that we actually did get that win, isn't it, Nedum? And Anelka as well, obviously, was doing the business.
What a smooth fella Nicolas Anelka was, by the way. That's a hell of a guy. I need to have a point of order here, though. So I've been seeing this clip for the second time. Did you notice the first clip? Do you see what it was, Dunne?
The kick?
Yeah, it's just you banging it down the sideline. Why did they put that in? You just kicked it down the channel. Keeper got it, and then
Nelson nearly got it. He was just offside.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was
is that all you did in the game?
Yeah, it was a tactical pass. I actually made it up to celebrate, and I never came up to celebrate because it was too far. But I think eventually I joined in.
I think you do. You arrived just in shot now in just a second.
About an hour late, I probably was.
Second appearance in the clip.
We'll see the score, but it's a beautiful goal.
Yes, that's nice variety. Is that Berkovic behind it as well?
I think so. And it was Bernabia that started it there in midfield as well.
Delightful. We've been playing fantastic football for 18 years, haven't we?
We really. I think as we see, there you are, Richard. You've arrived
eventually. Yeah.
And a young Joey Barton as well.
Our young Richard Dunne. We'll talk about him instead.
That was, of course, the 2-1 win. And you say, is that maybe then what actually we saw with Burnley and Brighton, a similar thing in going, they kind of weren't expected to win. They could go and implement the game, and they came out with the result.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't expect it with champions and a team like Liverpool, but when they're used to winning, they just think they have to turn up sometimes maybe and play how they play, and the result will come, because for the last 4 years or whatever it is, it generally has come. They've generally just gone and wiped the floor with whoever's arrived there. But now teams are starting to see an opportunity, and Liverpool are maybe they're playing at 99% instead of 100, and that makes a difference. And for a team that goes there without that fear, but you're seeing the second goal there, we had a certain quality in our side. We weren't going to dominate games and stuff like that, but when you have people like Sean Wright-Phillips, Ali Benarbia and Nicholas Anelka, similar players who would probably be close to getting in the side today, you're going to have an opportunity to score goals, and we were lucky on the day that we had someone like Anelka to get the 2 goals.
You know, as well, Dunny, I think Liverpool, even though they're in a bad run of form right now, based on what they've done for the past 2 years, as I was watching the game against Burnley, I was watching the game against Brighton, even as the clock was ticking, I still thought, they're going to come back and they're going to win, because I've just seen that for 2 years. Yeah. And in fairness, it's only City and Liverpool where I see that. I think both teams have earned the right to have people believe that. So to see them not come through with it it's more of a surprise. There could be a minute left and I'm still expecting something to happen. Which is why I say today's game is probably going to be very nerve-wracking, because, it's not done till it's done,
You've seen how I am watching a game, so it's probably not good for Paul Richard here. Well, listen, we want to bring you this just to add to our nerves and our tension. We have put together this brilliant little build-up package just to wet the whistle and get us excited for our game that's taking place in just under 20 minutes.
Well, with the pre-match pleasantries out of the way, Manchester City are going to be all business over the course of the next 90 minutes. Raheem Sterling gets on the score sheet. Brilliant from City. And it's another goal for Phil Foden.
I think at the start we went on a little dip and everyone wrote us off for saying we wouldn't win the league and that we've dropped too many points, and now we're at the top. It just shows how quickly things can change. I think it was just confidence and believing in ourselves that we could come back.
The game is for tomorrow to win, and 3 points. It's not how many years, how many centuries, and so on. So it's another football game from the 38 games in the Premier League. It's one more.
Yeah, definitely. But we have captains that just don't want us to get ahead of ourselves. We have to just think about the next game only and just try and put the points on the table, because we still know how easy it is to drop points this year. There's not really a home advantage, and it's been a strange year.
We really try hard in a very, very tricky season, and we will continue trying 100%, and Sunday the next time.
John Stones with a close range header.
I think everyone knows the quality of Liverpool and the top teams, and I don't think they've got the results that they've wanted, but nevertheless they've still got the quality and the champions of last season. So we know what we're in for, and we'll be well prepared for that game, and everyone will wear their heart on their sleeve, I'm sure.
John Stones, that is what I love to hear, my friend. I tell you what else I love to hear. Phil Foden in the interview this week saying he can't see himself playing for anyone else other than Manchester City. So, if I was in control, give the kid a 15-year contract right now, and he can negotiate as well his fee every 5 years. But we've not spoke about, of course, we're missing some key players in De Bruyne and Aguero, similar to Liverpool. I'm sure that won't get mentioned in the mainstream press. But one player that could shine, we saw him speaking there, Phil Foden. Another chance for him to shine on the big stage.
Yeah, for sure. He seems to just get better week on week, and in these big games, he's showing up. The manager trusts him enough to put him into the side in the biggest moments, and he plays well in them. Mm-hmm. So to see him out there on the field again, I think it just adds that little bit extra for you as a City fan, because you know how much this game will mean to him. You know how much it means to him to try and overcome, say, rivals in a quest for a Premier League title, and to see that you don't know what his ceiling's going to be, but he's already very, very elite. you're excited to see how he performs in games like this.
Yeah, and off what you said before, Rich, as well. Actually, kind of nice to see that little Phil Foden versus Curtis Jones on the pitch as well. Well, if that little warm-up, VT, wasn't enough for you, we've got one more for you, because, of course, this is one of the best fixtures in world football for me, and it is, of course, presented and given us some wonderful goals across the years. Some sensational goals there. Tough to choose. Have you a personal favourite from any of you gents?
Loved every single one of them.
Yeah.
But because I've got a feeling where Dunne's going to go, I'm going to go with Sergio's first one.
The impossible.
Because you're not supposed to shoot from there, let alone score. So that one just sums him up in a nutshell.
It really does. And for you, I think it has to be that goal, doesn't it? That you were a part. Well, in
yeah,
the team.
it has to be.
You were a part of. Relax.
The second goal of Aguero's, and that I love it just because of the passion when he scored it, and how much it meant to him when he just went crazy. But for me, in terms of, I have to be biased and say, go back 100 years to 2000 and whatever, and say Nicholas Anelka.
And I'll throw Sane in there as well. He did also love scoring against Liverpool. It'd be nice if he was on the bench, although we've got a few players that can definitely come on and make a difference. Now, if you want to let us know your favourite, or maybe you think, oh, you've missed this one actually, let us know and tweet us. You can do it at Man City or use a hashtag WNRH. Let us know your favourite goals, or if there's one that stands out to you in your memory. And speaking of you fans, we just want to take a little moment here from We're Not Really Here in the club, just to express our condolences to all of Vera's family. Vera was a lifetime Manchester City fan. I actually have seen her here at the stadium. I think it was maybe the season before last. She came down. It was kind of a special afternoon for her, and unfortunately it has passed away. So from all of us here at the club, we just want to say we're thinking of Vera and her family at this time. A lifelong blue and one of the best. Gentlemen, we have got a player to talk about who no longer plays Manchester City, but I think is one player that would have fitted seamlessly into this team, Georgie King-Cladsey. We'll get into him in just a second, but there is a new documentary coming focusing on this cult hero, and we can bring you a little teaser now.
Yes, I am. I sure I am. City till I die.
Guardiola will try and beat his man, and suddenly space opens up. Still King-Cladsey inside the penalty area. This will be a fantastic goal. Oh, that's mesmeric. It's sublime, and it's typically Georgie King-Cladsey.
And so we bought him for £1 million. But you could see the guy was brilliant. If you got the orchestra, this guy could conduct it.
Cladsey's looking for the return. Quinn's given it to him, and he scored. A footballing moment to treasure. Everyone is applauding King-Cladsey.
What a player. I tell you what, I'm very excited to check that out on City Plus. I mean, Georgie Kikladze, everyone just speaks about how mesmeric he was on the pitch.
Iconic figure. Even though the club and the team back then wasn't as successful as it is now, he's still thought of in the same way as we do with some of the greats in this team. And I think that says an awful lot. And he's someone who left so many memories, and I have so many friends who will not, if we ever want to talk about best City players, they will never leave him out of the discussion.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing he must have touched people's hearts in a big way.
You read, and I said it before then, I mean, we only saw a little clip, but him in a Pep Guardiola team or in this City team, it just looks like he would flourish even more, doesn't it, Richard?
Yeah, he's probably be perfect for Pep's teams, that sort of magic sprinkled on top of what they've got. But I remember me growing up in Ireland, Man City wouldn't have been a big side and as popular as they are now. But match of the day, and people would say, have you seen Kikladze at Man City and stuff like that? And it was then that you started to take notice of Man City, because they had a very, very special player in Kikladze, and someone that could, I suppose, when you're not winning games every week, for a fan to come and watch football, they want to be entertained, and when you have a player like that, it's a dream. And to be still spoke about and taught as highly as he is, whatever, 20 odd 30 years later nearly, I suppose it is now, it means, like Nedum says, it speaks a lot about how talented he was.
Really, really does. So City Plus will be the destination you need to go to check out that documentary. Now, of course, every time on We're Not Really Here, we want to celebrate and support one of our special supporters clubs. This week is no different, and for this one we are heading down under over to our supporters club over in Melbourne.
Right. Hi, we're the Melbourne Blues, and we're watching the Aston Villa game live here in Melbourne, Australia. We became an official branch in 2010, and we started with 12 members. We now have 220 members from 22 different countries around the world. Our home is the Imperial Hotel here in Melbourne, which is decorated with City memorabilia, including a City shirt signed by the 5 Australians who have played for Manchester City. Here in Australia, we like to watch the games early in the morning. It's 5:50 a.m. now, and that's why we are known as the Bananas in Pyjamas. Hello to all the City players and supporters around the world from Melbourne, Australia. It's great to be part of the global City family. If you're ever in Australia, come and say hello to the Melbourne Blues here at the Imperial Hotel. We're now going to sing you a little song. We love you, City, we do. We love you, City, we do. We love you, City, we do. Oh, City, we love you. Thank you, guys. It's bye for now, and back to the studio.
Tell you what, Melbourne City Supporters Club, we love you too. And do you know what I love about this? We're slowly getting all the bars and spots to go to all around the world for whenever we're there to go watch City, which is great. We're going to be getting that plaque over to you, and thank you as always for your support and sending that in as well. One of the best so far, I think. All right, quickly time to squeeze in our mystery blue before we get predictions from our guests. So let's have a ganders who we're trying to work out who it is this week. Wow. My director in my ear just said no one's going to get it this week.
I think I know.
You think you know?
Yeah.
Straight up, love that, Richard. Wow. Very rare as well. You'll come straight in saying
I've always been wrong.
Yeah.
But
Nedum, do you think you have any
I'll
guesses?
speak to Richard off and figure it out.
Okay, that's another thing we want you to get involved with, so just use our hashtag WNRH, send in your guesses. If we've not got loads to talk about at half-time, hopefully we'll bring you some of them, but if not full-time, we'll see if anyone's guessed it right and if Richard does know the answer. All right, gents, a few minutes away now. Now my nerves are well and truly
told you.
Prediction times from us in the studio. Nedum, I'll let you chill for just a second. Richard, a bit more composed than the two of us. What are you thinking for today's game?
Well, I've been fairly confident all the way through, and Nedum's negativity hasn't got onto me yet, so it's still good. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 win today and put an end to that awful record that we've got at Anfield.
Love that, and another clean sheet.
Just so we're clear, I appear negative because you're so positive, but I'm actually quite calm.
We're like the BBC.
Yeah, exactly. No favourites on the side. But I think today is going to finish off as a 2-2 draw, a very stressful one for both sides.
Okay, nice. I think there's a few, you'd kind of take the point maybe before the game, possibly, but hopefully we're going to be celebrating a Manchester City win. Come join us at half-time and then at full-time, and we'll be getting into all the big moments and key highlights of the game. And Alistair Mann has got your commentary as well. So from us all here in the studio, thank you for joining us. Get a cup of tea and we'll see you at half-time. Come on, City.
Right, Phillips, Nicola Anelka, Manchester City have won it. Back for Bellamy, deflected in against his former club. Tremendous header from Emmanuel Adebayor. Vincent Kompany scores for City in front of the top. Rolling for Dzeko, sliding through Liverpool's defence. Leroy Sané has thrust it in. Angelino. Bernardo Silva.